The lie is this: if you don't keep your kids on the same timeline as the system, then you're being irresponsible. Now, I totally get it. It sounds wise, it sounds mature, and it sounds like good parenting. So let's break this down just a little bit so you understand what I'm saying here. Probably so I don't offend a whole lot of people too. I'm not saying that children can never be behind. And I think some people took my post and they turned it into that. I actually made a post about this. Here's what okay. I have to put like a qualifier for absolutely everything because it's almost like people have lost common sense. I expect that my viewers and my readers, my followers, I expect that everybody has at least a little bit, just like a lick of common sense, right? Sometimes. What I'm saying here is it's not like a child can never be behind. If you have a high schooler who cannot read on their own, then that's probably a problem you want to address. But, here's the but, if your first grader needs another year of phonics before they can read a chapter book, give them another year of phonics. You are not on the system's timeline. It's okay, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with me here. At least most of you would not disagree with me here. You are not beholden to the public school system's timeline, okay? And that's okay. You are nurturing their development the way that it should be. The problem with the school system is that it has trained so many of us to be on this rigorous timeline of everything. So if you don't meet these certain benchmarks, then you feel like your child's behind or they might have to repeat a grade. That's for the system. Don't nitpick your kids because they're not meeting some small benchmark here, okay? Now, if your child needs help in an area, by all means, go get them help, right? Like, we're not saying don't give them help or anything like that. What we are saying is it's your job to nurture each of those subjects and issues with your child, and it can be done in a natural process and not in a classroom where they are on a timeline where they have to finish it by a certain date or they don't get to move on, which I don't think they even do that anymore because of No Child Left Behind. So, you know, like they push these kids through to the next grade level without having met the benchmarks of the previous year, which that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic. Don't even get me started on No Child Left Behind. But what I'm saying is because our children are home, we can nurture their development in their own home environment, and you can do that one-on-one. You get to set the pace. And the great thing about homeschooling is every child has their own pace. Sometimes it takes an extra year or two to meet, you know, some kind of developmental benchmark, right? I'm using that word because I don't know what else to use. You know, like teacher stuff is just in my brain. But if they don't do those certain things, there's nothing wrong with your child. They just might need another year of practice before they get there. That's what I mean when I say your child's not behind. They just might need a little bit more time, okay? Don't fall for that lie. So another point here is that benchmarks are tools, okay? They are a tool in your tool belt. They are not commandments. Some kids are just later bloomers. That's fine. I was a late bloomer with math, which really, really hindered me in a public school setting. That's okay. There's late bloomers with every subject. And that's totally fine. If your child is a late bloomer in math or reading, that's okay. And that's the problem with public school is they want everybody to learn at the same pace at the same time. And the problem is that's not how children learn and develop. It's just not. And then you have the looming end of the school year coming up. And that's kind of like this cloud hanging over the teacher's head. And it's like, well, if I don't get these kids to this point by this date, they're really going to struggle with the teacher next door. That's the problem with public schooling, and that's the problem with the whole model. Well, one of the major problems. And the great thing is we're not in that environment. You don't have to worry about that, okay? You can take all the time that you need. When I had a child who was struggling with, I think, Algebra 2 or Geometry, one of the two, what we were able to do was to slow down the lessons and extend it out. And luckily, by the end of the school year, we were doing fine. But I was able to slow down those lessons, retake those lessons, add extra practice, add extra resources and supplemental type of things. And he was able to get that down and complete it on his own timetable. I was not rushing him to the end of the year. And I said, hey, if we need to do some supplemental geometry over the summer, we can do that. The great thing too about that is the kids feel less pressure. They don't feel like they have to meet these certain benchmarks by, June 1st, or it's all over for them. You know what I mean? They can take as much time as they want to complete these things. And if they're struggling, we can slow down and we can help and assist them. So the lie says, if you're not measuring your child against the system, then you're being irresponsible. And the flip side is, you're telling parents that there's no standard and that there's no behind. Both statements are wrong. Both statements are a lie. The truth is somewhere in the middle. And, I get stuff hurled at me all the time on the internet. It's just part of being someone who's online. I don't even want to call myself an influencer. It just sounds so cheesy and silly and finger tappy. Like, please. But the truth is, that the truth is always somewhere in the middle, okay? Again, I expect my viewers, my parents who watch me, to have a lick of common sense, right? If your 10th grader or 11th grader is having trouble with reading and they don't have a developmental delay, like if they are not special needs or anything like that, then I expect that you probably know that there's a problem, and I expect that you know to go and get assistance, right? I expect you to use your own judgment. I expect that you have good judgment. We're all homeschoolers here, we're all buddies. You don't have to follow the system's timeline. You're not part of the system. Ignore what they're doing. And I want to make this point too. That's why books like this can be both helpful and damaging at the same time. Because books like this book is called Home Learning Year by Year, and it's basically all the things that public schoolers learn for each grade in a general sense, okay? Like, this is not gospel, this is not anything like that, but it's a really good blueprint of the basic things that public schoolers learn every single year, and it's made for homeschooling families just to kind of like line up. Like, if you're putting together a curriculum on your own, you can kind of line up and say, okay, so in math, this is what we should be learning in grade 8, okay? This is a secular book, by the way, so I don't really use it that much. But this is why this book can be really damaging to homeschoolers, because they look at this and go, oh, my child's not ready for that, so I must be doing something wrong and we must need to catch up. That's why sometimes these books can be a detriment. So actually, I would suggest picking up this book instead by my friend Karen Andriola, even if you don't do Charlotte Mason homeschooling. And you have to understand, like, just because you don't do Charlotte Mason homeschooling doesn't mean you won't get anything out of this book, okay? I am not a 100% to the T Charlotte Masoner. I am more of like a eclectic mom when it comes to curriculum. I've been able to take our basics and kind of make them Charlotte Mason-ish. Is that a term? I don't know. I just made it a term. This has been a wonderful resource for me because it kind of reshapes the way that I was thinking about learning and teaching. And I thought it was such a better book than this. This causes me stress. This gives me joy. One thing that I want to clarify here is I'm not saying that this is a bad book. This has been helpful for me, throughout the years to just kind of get an overview of different grades. What I'm saying is this isn't gospel, or that your child is not behind if you're not meeting all of the benchmarks for each page. I'm also saying don't use this wrong, okay? That's my main point here is if you get this book, don't use it the wrong way. This is not the homeschool Bible, okay? There is no such thing. So if you have this book, it's okay to use, just don't use it the wrong way. Not saying that this book is lying to you or that this book is the wrong thing or anything like that. So just wanted to put that out there before anybody comes at me. Much better resource for that. No, this does not tell you what to do year by year, but it's a way to reshape your thinking about teaching, about atmosphere, using Charlotte Mason's principles. You don't have to be a Charlotte Masoner to get anything out of this book, especially if you have young children. This is such a wonderful book. I reference this book constantly. So again, just to reiterate, if you are not following the school's timeline on everything, you're not behind. You are following your child's development, and that is responsible parenting and homeschooling. I hope that makes sense, and I hope nobody screams at me in the comments again. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy homeschooling.